Hi everyone, thanks so much for joining us today for this webinar entitled Love Your Heart, Everyday Tips to Keep Your Heart Healthy and Strong. I am Dr. Karol Watson. I am from the David Geffen School of Medicine at UCLA. I'm a cardiologist here. I'm director of the UCLA Program in Preventive Cardiology and the UCLA Barbara Streisand Women's Heart Health Program. And what we've often said is, wouldn't it be nice if there were easy things people could do to keep their heart healthy? Well, it turns out there are. So what we want to figure out a way to do is to make the healthy choice the default choice. So hopefully some of these tips will help you. I just want to remind everyone that we will be taking questions after the talk today. The hashtag is hashtag UCLAMDChat. Setting the stage. Cardiovascular disease, heart attacks, strokes, the leading cause of death in the United States. So you can see there are many more deaths caused by heart disease than the next 4 causes of death put together. So it's a very important topic. I want to start by talking about simple things we can all do to make our hearts healthy. I'll start off by talking about physical activity. So why did I choose physical activity as my first topic? Well, because it saves lives. This is a slide that shows you the death rate according to the amount of calories that you expend doing physical activity every week. What you can see is that the highest death rates occur up here where the people are doing the least amount of physical activity. As they go up in physical activity, the death rates fall. So we're focusing on physical activity because it saves lives. The really good news about physical activity is that you don't have to do a whole lot. All studies have shown if you break the population up into 5 groups, the lowest group in terms of the amount of physical activity they do, which is shown here to the left, versus the highest group, shown to the right, if you do nothing at all, a true couch potato, you have a very high mortality rate. You die a lot faster than your more active counterparts. But just moving a little bit, both for men and for women, drops that rate dramatically. So moving a little bit helps a lot. You can see further reduction the more activity you get to, but just moving makes a big difference. I show a nice woman there walking because I love walking. It's one of my favorite forms of exercise. We have in our Preventive Cardiology program what we call the Hall of Fame. Those are individuals who make it to 90 years of age in good health, with good cognition, good minds and everything, and to a 1, they walk daily. So you can see daily walking is an excellent form of exercise. The other thing I love about walking is you can do it throughout the lifetime. People who are marathon runners or mountain bikers, they really can't do it forever, but you can walk forever. And exercising into older adulthood is just as important as it is in younger adulthood. It extends life expectancy, reduces the risk of every chronic illness, it restores function, and it actually makes people live longer. People feel better when they're moving. So remember, any activity is good. Leading an active lifestyle is actually the best. So make sure you incorporate activity into your entire day. Park a little further from the grocery store. Walk up the stairs at work. Deconditioning, almost as much as obesity, is a cause of chronic illness, and exercise is medicine. So my heart healthy tip number 1, stay active. Regular activity has the potential to make the biggest impact on health. Okay, let's talk about things we can eat. Nuts. Nuts have gotten such a bad rap for so many years. They're high in oils and somewhat high in calories, so people have said if you're on a diet or you're watching your heart health, you have to stay away from nuts. Turns out that recommendation is wrong. A handful of nuts a day is about the amount in an ounce, and it can promote health, prevent diabetes, and lower your risk of heart disease. We have a number of research studies that show us this. One recent study called the Nurses' Health Study showed that individuals who ate nuts each day had about 1/3 the risk fewer heart attacks than those who never or rarely ate nuts. So an ounce of nuts a day is what we recommend. It's about the amount in a handful. How can you figure out the portion size? Well, there are some convenient ways you can do it at home. An ice cream scoop, a typical ice cream scoop, can contain about an ounce of nuts. A whiskey shot glass, the amount that fits on a sticky note, the amount in a baby food jar, or the amount in a quarter cup measure. If you like numbers better, you can see the numbers here. For an ounce of almonds, it's about 24 whole nuts, pistachios about 47, hazelnuts 18 to 20, pecans 20 halves, peanuts 30 whole nuts, Brazil nuts about 8 nuts, cashews 18 whole nuts, or macadamia nuts 12 whole nuts. Again, nuts do contain calories, so you have to be careful. Limit it to about an ounce, but my heart health tip number 2, go nuts. An ounce of nuts a day provides heart health benefits. Okay, what about stress? We all know stress is a natural part of life. There's nothing that we do that doesn't involve some type of stress. You can think of stress in any number of ways. Some people find it to be very activating. It gets them to do their job. They don't even start their term paper until they're under stress. But some people find it debilitating. If you find that stress in your life is causing a debilitating sort of emotion, that's dangerous. There are a number of studies that show this. One study by 2 gentlemen named Rusek and Zoman compared doctors with the highest stress jobs, like surgeons or cardiologists, to doctors with lower stress jobs, like pathologists or dermatologists. They found that heart disease rates were about 400 times greater in doctors with high stress. What about people who aren't in the medical profession? Another study has looked at that as well. They looked at office workers. Those who felt they were highly stressed were about 200 times more likely to die of heart disease than those with low stress jobs. And in yet another study, individuals who were described as stress prone were about 300% more likely to die from heart disease than others. So what can we do? Well, stress itself may not cause or increase the risk of heart disease, but it looks like the reaction to stress is more important. So how an individual handles stress rather than the stress itself is likely the culprit. That's the good thing. We can't always control all the stressors in our life, but hopefully we can control how we react to them. Mechanisms are very complex. There's a lot of things that go on. Stress itself can elicit stress hormones that are directly toxic on the heart. But the other thing that's true is that individuals who are under a lot of stress tend to forego healthy lifestyle. They forget to do their daily walk. They don't eat the most healthy food. So there's many mechanisms that can lead stress to increase heart attack risk. So my heart health tip number 3 is manage stress. Do whatever works for you. For a lot of people, it's exercise. Some people, it's yoga. Some people, it's meditation. Do whatever works for you to help manage stress. One of the things that I learned about 20 years ago is that stressful people aren't necessarily just annoying. They're actually a direct threat to your health. So remember, stress kills. What about coffee and tea? Well, we've known for many years that coffee and tea are both rich in chemicals that promote heart health, like catechins and flavonols. But for years, people have said, oh, you can't drink too much coffee or too much tea because the stress, epinephrine, the increased heart rate will harm the heart. That turns out to be exactly wrong. Many studies have been done recently that show that coffee consumption and tea consumption in moderation improve heart health. This is one of the recent studies on coffee, when they again break up the world into different groups. Those who have the lowest coffee intake are shown here in blue, both for all-cause mortality, total deaths, and heart disease mortality. They have the highest risk. If you go up to 1 cup a day, it goes down. 2 or 3 cups a day, 4 or 5 cups a day, and even greater than 6 cups a day, it goes down. Turns out for coffee, the lowest risk turns out to be between 4 to 5 cups a day. That's true for all-cause mortality and cardiovascular mortality. It's about 2 to 3 cups a day. We'd recommend that people stay between 2 to 3 cups of coffee a day for reduction in mortality. Tea turns out to be just as healthy. So in many different studies, they have shown this. 2 of them are shown on this slide. Consumption of about 32 ounces of green tea. That's a venti, it's a really large cup of tea, was shown by Japanese men to result in a 58% lower risk of dying from heart disease than those who consumed only about 10 ounces per day. Another study looked at Dutch men and women who consumed about 13 ounces a day of black tea, and they found that they had a 68% lower risk of dying of a heart attack than those who did not drink tea at all. So again, both coffee and tea consumption have been associated with lower risk of dying and lower risk of heart disease. So my next heart health tip is sip your favorite brew. Both coffee and tea in moderation boost heart health. Let's talk about sleep. Lord knows we all need our sleep. There's really good information now that show that heart disease can lead to poor sleep, and in turn, poor sleep can lead to heart disease. So what's a person supposed to do? Well, many studies have looked at this. They look at individuals, they figure out how much they sleep. Often they do it with a complex machine called an actigraph, which measures the amount of limb movements. So you can actually tell when someone's asleep or someone's not asleep. For both women and men, it turns out that about 7 hours a night leads to the lowest mortality. A different study looked at the same thing. They asked the question, how much sleep a night do I need to live the longest? And again, they came up with the same answer. It's 7 hours a night that leads to the lowest mortality. What's going on here? Well, it turns out even if you sleep too little, less than 5 hours a night, you have much higher risk of heart disease. But if you sleep too much, more than 9 hours a night, you tend to have a higher risk of heart disease as well. How could both sides cause problems? Well, there are many possible mechanisms. If you have a short sleep duration, that tends to increase your stress hormones in your body. As well, stress hormones can cause short sleep duration. And when that happens, inflammation is increased in your heart, and that leads to early heart disease. If you have a long sleep duration, that tends to be associated with overweight and obesity. You then get a number of metabolic abnormalities like prediabetes, and again, that increases heart disease risk. So either very short duration of sleep or very long duration of sleep is associated with adverse cardiac and total mortality events. So my next heart healthy tip is get your Z's. Try to get at least 7 to 8 hours of good quality sleep per night. Well, how do you know if it's a good quality sleep? Well, if you go to sleep at night, sleep your 8 hours, and wake up completely refreshed, it's probably good quality. If you go to sleep at night, sleep through what you think is a solid 8 hours, wake up feeling drained, it's likely that your sleep quality isn't optimal, and you should probably see your doctor. Heart healthy tip number 5, get your Z's. Okay, one thing that we know has happened in our society is that we've gone from a society that moves a lot, walks a lot, to a society that sits a lot. Sitting time has been associated with increased mortality. Humans were meant to move. You can see what's happened over time. We've gone from our four-legged ancestors to hunter-gatherers to cavemen that walked a lot. They walked every day, but now we have a lifestyle where most of our day is spent sitting. About 55 to 70% of waking hours are spent sedentary. Man was not meant to sit that much. There's a number of studies that show that sitting is pretty bad for you. One study showed us that each 1 hour increment in sitting time is found to be associated with an 11% to an 18% increase in the risk of all-cause and cardiovascular disease mortality, respectively. That's each 1 hour increment. Not many of us sit just 1 hour a day. Many of us are sitting 8 hours a day. So times that by 8. Another study showed that the less sitting time you have, the longer you live. Makes sense. So what we want to do is get people up and moving, not always sitting. What we've done here at UCLA is we now have standing desks in our medical offices. So instead of sitting to write out all our notes and do our work, we can stand while we do that. It's hard to believe, but we forget standing takes a lot of energy. You use a lot of muscles and burn a lot more calories than sitting. Ask any toddler if that's true. Remember how hard it is for a toddler to learn how to stand up on his own 2 feet? That's the amount of energy you're spending when you're standing rather than sitting. So my heart healthy tip number 6 is, when possible, stand. Limit your sitting time. Chocolate, one of my favorite topics. Again, for years we thought chocolate was bad. It's got too much sugar, too much fat. It's not good for the heart. Don't eat it. But we also knew that it was rich in some things like resveratrol, cocophenols, and epicatechins, which have been shown to be positive for heart health. So we never knew. But recent research has shown that in small amounts, dark chocolate especially, can be heart healthy. Again, many possible benefits of chocolate, but the heart healthy compounds found within it have been shown to lower blood pressure, improve vascular function, reduce amount of stickiness of platelets, therefore the number of blood clots, to improve insulin sensitivity, that means lower risk of diabetes, and to reduce inflammation. There are a number of studies that have looked at it, most of them small. This is one small study that actually showed a benefit on mortality. This was a study of 470 elderly men that were followed for 15 years. They were split into 3 groups according to how much cocoa-containing foods they took. Those in the lowest amount of cocoa-containing foods had the highest risk of dying, a 47% increased risk. If you were in the highest intake of cocoa-containing foods, you had a 47% reduced risk of dying. So in this small study, it showed that eating chocolate saved lives. Heart healthy tip number 7, enjoy a bit of dark chocolate, but only in small amounts. We recommend not more than 1 ounce per day, and make it the dark kind. It's the cacao, the dark chocolate, that provides the benefits. Milk chocolate adds milk to it and actually dilutes the heart health benefits. So it's dark chocolate, which gives you those heart health benefits. All right, what about fats? We know that fats in general have a lot of calories, and for years we've been taught that all fats are bad for you. But it turns out that some fats are neutral, some fats are healthy, while other fats are harmful. Turns out the polyunsaturated fats, those found in vegetable oils and fish oils, and monounsaturated fats, those found in olive oil and canola oil, are the healthiest fats. They actually boost HDL and reduce heart disease. All of these oils are liquid at room temperature. That's how you tell a healthy oil. It's liquid at room temperature. Trans fats and saturated fats are the most dangerous types of fats. They are solid at room temperature. Think the difference between Crisco and a bottle of olive oil. Crisco is harmful. It's solid at room temperature. Olive oil is healthful. It's liquid at room temperature. So trans fats are bad. Polyunsaturated fats and monounsaturated fats are good. So we want you to eat fewer solid fats. That means shortening, butter, margarine, excess fats on meat like pot roast. Those are bad. Avoid all trans fats. Trans fats are fats that are artificially manufactured by blasting hydrogen to fats. The food industry does that because it improves shelf life, and some people think it improves taste. But what it does is it's harmful, toxic even, to the blood vessels. So that trans fats are found in fried foods, cookies, cakes, crackers, and other snack foods. Substitute liquid oils, which are heart healthy, polyunsaturated fats, omega-3 fatty acids like fish oils, and monounsaturated fats like olive oil, canola oil, and peanut oil. Heart healthy tip number 8, substitute liquid fats for solid fats. My next tip is one of my favorite because it's not only healthy, it's quite yummy. The Mediterranean diet is very, very healthy. This was first shown many years ago in a small study called the Lyon Heart Study. They took 600 patients who had just survived a heart attack and then randomized them to eat either a Mediterranean diet or a Western diet, which was lower in fat, which they called the prudent diet. In the Mediterranean diet, they were asked to eat less beef, lamb, and pork, and more fish. They also were asked to eat fruit every single day. They took away their butter and their cream, and they replaced it with canola oil, which is a healthy monounsaturated oil. And they were asked to drink wine in low to moderate amounts. What they found was that the individuals who were randomized to the Mediterranean diet had a much better survival than individuals who were randomized to the Western diet. Well, that's a heart attack group. What about healthy individuals? That was recently studied in the PREDIMED study. They took 7,447 adults in Spain who were at a higher risk of having a heart attack. They separated them into 3 different groups. One group had a Mediterranean diet supplemented with olive oil. The second group had the Mediterranean diet supplemented with a handful of nuts a day. The third group had the typical low-fat diet that we recommend for heart attack survivors, mostly in this country. What they did was they gave them their diets, followed them for 5 years to see who had death, heart attack, or stroke, or diabetes. What they found was the individuals who had the best survival were those in the Mediterranean diet and olive oil groups. What you see on this slide is the number of people who either had a heart attack, stroke, or died is shown up here. So the highest risk of heart attack, stroke, or dying were those who were in the low-fat group. I'm sorry you can't see it, but in that black bar right there is the low-fat group. The best outcomes occurred in those who had the Mediterranean diets, whether it was supplemented with nuts or supplemented with olive oil. Other health benefits of a Mediterranean diet can reduce the risk of Alzheimer's disease, Parkinson's disease, and cancer. So many benefits have been seen with the Mediterranean diet. The Mediterranean diet pyramid is shown here. At its base, it's daily physical activity. Above that are daily fruits and vegetables, limited meats, limited fats, limited sugars. Some practical advice for incorporating a Mediterranean diet into your own diet: eat more fruits and vegetables. Not a day goes by without fruits and vegetables. Include oily fish such as salmon, herring, sardines into your diet 2 to 3 times per week. Eat whole grain bread and cereals instead of white. Use olive oil or canola oil as your oil of choice or your spread. Have a handful of nuts each day. Reduce red meat intake and have some alcohol in moderation. Not more than 1 drink a day for women and not more than 2 drinks a day for men. So my heart healthy tip number 9 is eating a Mediterranean diet pattern reduces heart attacks, strokes, and death. All right, let's go to my final heart health tip. And for this tip, I'm going to borrow information from the Okinawans. The Okinawans are individuals from Japan on the island of Okinawa who have the longest life expectancy in the entire world. There's been a long-term study called the Okinawan Centenarian Study. It's trying to figure out why these Okinawans live to be 100 or more. They said, is it something magical in the air? Is it something magical in the water? What is it? What they found from this study is that Okinawans eat really healthy foods. They have 7 servings of fruit and vegetables per day, fish 2 to 3 times per week, very little meat, very little dairy, very little sugar. They also found that Okinawans have a very low stress lifestyle. They have strong social supports. They have daily physical activity. So my heart health tip number 10 is healthy diet, physical activity, low stress, and strong social supports really do help you live longer. And we should all do that. Healthy diet and regular exercise are the foundation of good health, and I hope these tips have helped you think of some things that you can do in your own life to make it healthier. Thank you so much for your time and attention. I'd be happy to take some questions, and you can submit questions to us using this hashtag here, hashtag UCLAMDChat. Thank you so much. So my first question is here. What's the single best thing I can do to keep my heart healthy? Well, it does require doing a lot of things all at once, and some of the things that I mentioned in the talk just now. But if I had one single thing that I could say, it would have to be physical activity. My friends and I in Preventive Cardiology have often joked, if we had all the benefits that exercise can give, if we could put that in a pill, we'd make $1 billion. But you can't. But you can put it in a 30-minute walk daily. You can put in an active lifestyle. So if I had just one single thing I could do and I couldn't do all others, I would say daily physical activity. Any more questions? Well, it looks like there are no questions now, but thank you so much for joining us today for this talk. And hopefully we'll get a chance to talk again. Thank you.